So you've read the book. What more context can you give about General Milley's calls with his China counterpart?
I think it's very important to know, Anderson, that these calls are not unusual. Despite what Donald Trump is saying, despite what some of his loyalists are saying, these kinds of back-channel conversations happen all the time. They were also, as you mentioned, not done in secret. In fact, CNN reporting is now that General Milley consulted with both defense secretaries. Back in October, that would have been then Defense Secretary Esper, who wanted this call made, and then with Acting Defense Secretary Chris Miller in January. There were 15 people, there were translators, there were notes given, a State Department representative was there. As one former national security official said to me, this is someone who's a Republican, General Milley never went rogue. Donald Trump went rogue when he tried to overturn the election.
I understand you have new details from the October 30th call.
So I think what's important here is some of this has been taken out of context. People have not read the book yet. And when you see the details of the conversation, it is very clear that Milley is making these calls because he has sensitive intelligence. The Chinese think the U.S. is going to make a strike because Donald Trump may pull a wag the dog. And Milley initiates this call in order to reassure his counterpoint, General Lee. Woodward and Costa write in the book, quote, General Lee, you and I have known each other for now 5 years. If we're going to attack, I'm going to call you ahead of time. It's not going to be a surprise. It's not going to be a bolt out of the blue. If there was a war or some kind of kinetic action between the United States and China, there's going to be a buildup, just like there has always been in history. This quote has been taken out of context, and it's suggested that Milley is going to give General Lee a heads up on a strike. That's not at all what's happening. The next sentence is critical. Milley goes on, it's going to be okay. We're not going to have a fight. And General Lee says, okay, I take you at your word. The point, Anderson, is that Milley is just trying to say, if something was going to happen, you would know about it. There was nothing treasonous going on here. He was simply reassuring the Chinese that the guardrails were up.
Now, General Milley obviously has been getting hammered by some Republicans who are calling for him to resign or be fired. President Trump went as far as calling this treason. I just want to play that.
General Milley needs to answer questions about it because is this true? He should be fired. He should be fired, and he should have to face military justice for what he's done.
He needs to resign, and if he won't resign, he needs to be fired.
That's treason. And I would think, I've had so many calls today saying, that's treason.
If true, General Milley has broken some very good laws, and we ought to make sure that there is accountability for that.
If it is true, absolutely immediately needs to be removed.
If the truth is as alleged, then yes, he should resign.
As you pointed out earlier, I mean, few people have actually read this book. You have.
Right. So I would say two things. One is maybe they should wait and read the book. The second thing is I'm so glad we played that because they're classic talking points. This began with Donald Trump. What did we see for the last 4 years of his administration? When he doesn't like what's being said about him, and he certainly does not like the reporting in peril, and he does not like what General Milley said, which is that he's unpredictable, he's dangerous, and Woodward and Costa write that Milley believed that Trump was in serious mental decline, and he used the word treason. It is no accident that Donald Trump is trying to change the subject. He is accusing Milley of actually what the book says about Donald Trump himself.
Yeah, I mean, the headline could just as easily be, that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs thought the president was increasingly mentally unstable. Clearly, the former president wants it to be treason, and that makes it a different headline. Jamie Gangala, appreciate your reporting. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to get perspective now from retired General Wesley Clark, a CNN military analyst and a former NATO Supreme Allied Commander. General Clark, this reporting that then Defense Secretary Esper apparently knew about the call that General Milley made in late October, should that quell some of the outrage from Republicans toward Milley, since the Defense Secretary was aware of it?
I think there should be a lot of praise for General Milley for doing what he did. He took the initiative. He reached out. He did the best he could to maintain strategic stability. He did it right by the book. He informed the interagency. He had people there from various agencies. It was recorded. It was distributed in the U.S. government. Should be no big secret about this, and Congress shouldn't be surprised. This is what chairmen of the Joint Chiefs of Staff are supposed to do. They're supposed to help support strategic stability and U.S. policy goals. That's what he did.
Former President Trump is accusing Milley of treason, which probably isn't any surprise. He will try to use this to his advantage. But Senator Rubio is actually calling for Milley to be fired in light of these conversations, saying he should have to face military justice.
Well, I'm really disappointed in Senator Rubio because he's been around for a while. I remember hearing a great speech he made at the 2012 Republican convention. He's supposed to know better. We need our senior military leaders to be able to talk to their military counterparts around the world. It's a very important component of U.S. policy. It helps shape nations' understanding of what's going on in the United States, and it also gives us early warning of some of their concerns. There's really nothing better we can get in the way of intelligence and information than those heads of military calls with each other. So it's very, very valuable. Now, he shouldn't be doing it just, as a hip pocket call. Nobody knew about it, and he didn't. He did it with the full support of the interagency.
And that's, is that routine?
It is absolutely routine. Now, it's not routine that you have a president of the United States who's so determined to subvert the Constitution that everybody around him is afraid of a right-wing coup occurring, as we read in the book that the former director of the CIA said. That's not routine. But General Milley's response, his determination to maintain stability, to keep people informed, to avoid a crisis, that is exactly what General Milley should have been doing.
General Milley's interesting. When he testified recently before Congress, he was asked about critical race theory, and he talked about how he's studied it, and what everyone thinks of it. He just was talking about the importance of understanding. He talked about Mao Zedong, reading, his works, and Karl Marx. I thought it was interesting to hear a general discuss, the kind of the education of a general and staying abreast of theories and policies.
That's exactly what we expect of our senior leadership. We expect them to be conversant with what communism was, what people are reading in the United States. We expect them to be able to talk at the political level, the economic level, the social level. We expect them to understand our soldiers and the impact on our soldiers. That's why we've had a great armed forces. That's why America views it as a sort of number one most respected institution, because we have leaders like Mark Milley.
To those who look at what Milley is reported to have done and say, well, the military is under civilian control for a reason, and General Milley may have been horrified by President Trump or what he was up to, but perhaps he should have quit or been public about it rather than not have this be public or do whatever he's actually did.
Well, there's no reason for him to make these calls public at the time he made them. The military talked military to military relations all the time without it being public. But it was open within the interagency. It was approved, and the Secretary of Defense was informed in both cases. So I think Milley's absolutely blameless, and in fact, he's very praiseworthy for having done this. If it was his initiative, which apparently it was the right call at the right time.